Yeah. For me, Prabhakaran is a godsend, both as a person and as a professional. As a person, I found Prabhakaran very reassuring, not because I was his client.
Okay.
Prabhakaran as a person, I known Prabhakaran only now the last 3 months, but it is a lifelong time. To me, Prabhakaran is a reassuring friend, not because I was his client, but more because he's a person who can relate to you in depth. He is a man like me who is there for the underdogs. In his professional life, the different cases I have heard he has dealt with, they are all mostly landmark cases wherein he has fought for the underdogs. People have nobody to fight for, be it animals, be it human beings, be it dying, destitute, be it people who have nobody to fight for, deaf, dumb, differently abled. He is there for the weakest in the society. In that I have my greatest admiration for him, and I had several options before I chose to have a solicitor for our cases. But when I spoke to Prabhakaran for 5 minutes, less than 5 minutes, I was able to assess the uniqueness of this solicitor, that he was brilliant, and later on I came to know that he had a gold, he was gold medalist for his graduation as well as post-graduation degrees, and that he had studied abroad in United States, and he was an eminent lawyer for the British Airways and things like that. So all this I came to know afterwards, after my deciding to have him as my solicitor. What made me decide to take him on as my solicitor was his grasp of things in a very short while, an area which he was not familiar with, looking after the dying, destitute, hospice. Hospice itself, that word itself, is only about 35 years old in the world. And for him to suddenly grasp what hospice stands for and how it is different to a hospital or an old age home, all that infused minutes he grasped so quickly. And that shows, a real acumen of that person. And I was so glad to engage him as my solicitor. And the beautiful thing of it is, he told me from the very beginning, Father, I will never charge you a penny. All these expenses in the High Court will be my privilege. Wow, that was something so generous of him. And later on, when someone offered to pay, a father, one of my benefactors, told me, please tell the solicitor that that person would pay for all the expenses in the court and the lawyer's fees. And I said it is subject to if Prabhakaran would accept it or not. When I informed Prabhakaran about it, Prabhakaran said, Father, don't deprive me of my spiritual journey. This is my spiritual journey. I want to be part of the beautiful work you are doing for the poorest of the poor. So don't deny me. Money I can always make. But this kind of opportunity to work with you for a cause like this, This is tremendous, and please give me that opportunity. Well, my experience of Prabhakaran as a hard-working intellectual who has his feet on the ground. That's how I would describe him. There are days when I noticed him in Dindigal when he was getting ready for the defense in the High Court in Madurai. He used to read up till about 2 o'clock at night, make notes, highlight in the book, and then in the morning at about 7 o'clock he's up and wanting me to be there to sound out things for him, to be there as devil's advocate. And then he would, from 7 till 10 o'clock, he would engage with me just to sound out what he has learned and how he was going to present the case the next morning. I mean, this is so rare in any lawyer, any solicitor, but Prabhakaran showed he is an extraordinary solicitor by going all the way to win your case, by studying all about it, and knowledge is power, and that's why his house, his office, everywhere, all the racks are filled to the brim with books, and that just speaks volumes about his intelligence and his practical approach to the practice of law. Another aspect I would like to focus on Prabhakaran is his unusual ability to interact with ordinary people. He has no airs. He doesn't pretend, oh, I am a Supreme Court lawyer and I know everything. He's willing to learn. He has no airs. This is something unusual in a very dignified person like Prabhakaran. What more can I say about Prabhakaran? Well, he has, when he's focused, I noticed, focused on his job, nothing and no one disturbs him. He is completely focused on the subject on hand, and he is immersed in it, and he has analyzed it completely top to bottom. And that is something. He is not a slipshod worker. He is a perfectionist. That's something I noticed in his work. He is methodical. He is a perfectionist. He does his part of the study, and then he presents himself with conviction. He argues his case. I had the opportunity of attending one of his arguments in Madurai, and I could notice the entire court and all the solicitors who were nearby in other courts, they all came and stood and listened to him in pin-drop silence. They could see there was an eminent lawyer there speaking, arguing a case which was so popular. Almost 60-odd channels in Tamil Nadu carried negative vibrations about St. Joseph's Hospice. And he stood against all of those and fought alone and won all the cases. That is really great. That is a one-man's victory over 60 ill-informed, treacherous, horrendous people who want to malign an institution because it was doing a noble service. It so happened it was done by a Catholic priest like me, and to malign the Catholic image, to malign the Catholic religion or the Christian religion of service, They manipulated these things, they manipulated the media to fit their end. And Prabhakaran proved them completely wrong, and they all will have to pay for their lies now.
Yeah.
I remember Prabhakaran telling me yesterday a little story of how two of them, himself and his best friend, they decided, they said, we'll go for this public service commission exam, and if we pass, what each one would like to do. He said he will become the Prime Minister, the other Prabhakaran said he will become the Army General or whatever, and now we're having control over the entire political scene and the military scene. We'll be able to bring about a lot of changes in the country, and all the dirty politicians would be out of the way, blah, blah, blah. And they went for the interview, and Prabhakaran very solemnly failed in the physical part of it. He couldn't do the exercises and the drills they had asked him to do. So he failed, the other person also failed, and that was the end of their dream. But to me, Prabhakaran depicts a real role model for any youth who is ambitious to come up in life. Prabhakaran told me about what a hard life he had to live, how difficult it was. So much so his own mummy told him, my son, continue studying and study well. Even if I have to sell one of my kidneys, I will do that for you. You get on with it. You study hard. And that's what he did. He begged, borrowed and stole, and somehow made sure he was the best student in his university, both for graduation and post-graduation. Through sheer hard work, he came up in life. So this is something. And then some people who work hard, who come up in life, they become very snobbish, nouveau riche as they call them. Oh, they have suddenly amassed a lot of money, and they won't look on you, they look down on people and things like that. Prabhakaran is never like that. Prabhakaran is a man for ordinary people, and that is something that he impressed me with. I think he is a role model for the youth because anyone who is from a defavorized community, be it a Dalit, be it a scheduled caste, be it from the poor background, poor for whatever reason, you can always look forward to with ambition in life if we have the hard work, determination and zest which Prabhakaran showed in his life. This is something I would ask the youth to imitate in Prabhakaran. His hard work, his determination to do something, to make a difference to the lives of people. He used to tell me, Father, how much I admire your great service. But I told him, how much I admire yours. You take on the cases which nobody else would. That is something exceptional. I remember my heart surgeon in England, who was from India originally. He would take only the hopeless cases. Cases which were rejected by other cardiothoracic surgeons. He would go for them and make a successful operation of that. And that way, when I had my cardiac operation done on me, there was a possibility for 5 grafts in me. That means most of my arteries were scarred for good, with calcare, the whole thing was in a mess. But he went for it without giving it a second thought. So such people makes a difference to the lives of people. And how grateful I am to my cardiothoracic surgeon who went for difficult cases. And I was one of those difficult cases. Similarly, Prabhakaran goes for difficult cases, unwanted cases, who nobody will fight for. He fights for such cases, and that is something beautiful. I suppose I could have gone for a solicitor recommended by people who charge you the earth, and you feel, oh my God, at the end of it, I am serving the poorest of the poor, and here is me shelling away all the money meant for the poorest of the poor, giving to a rich solicitor for so many hours, he charges so much of rupees. I would have been a bit disgusted, I think, at the end of it. But this Prabhakaran, Prabhakaran the man, Prabhakaran the poor people's man, the limping dogs person that Prabhakaran is, I think he has made me go through these cases with a sense of joy and fulfillment that we have discovered we are in it together, that he and me together, we can together win against injustice in this world. And that will make a difference to this world. And that's what Prabhakaran taught me. Between Prabhakaran the man and between Prabhakaran the solicitor, I think both are the same. All that is essentially good in him permeates and percolates into Prabhakaran the professional. All his personal beautiful qualities he brings into fruition in his eloquence, in his argumentative skills, all that he brings, convictions. He makes any lawyer, any judge to sit up and listen to him. And that makes a difference between a good lawyer and an indifferent one. I think Prabhakaran is a real good lawyer, solicitor, who does pride for his profession.
பிரபாகர் சார் அப்படின்னு சொன்ன உடனே டக்குன்னு உங்கள் மைண்டுக்கு வர ஒரு விஷயம், மேபி சிலரை பார்த்த உடனே சிலர் பேர் சொன்ன உடனே வில் கெட் லைக் திங்ஸ். ஸோ பிரபாகர் சார் சொன்ன உடனே உங்களுக்கு மைண்டுக்கு வர ஒரு விஷயம் என்னவா இருக்கு?
Prabhakaran, just like that, brings to mind the convinced person that he is. That a person who stands for values, a person who is reassuring when it comes to fighting for the poor and the downtrodden. There is somebody I can count on. When I look at him, that determined face, that lovely handsome face with the lovely bending moustache, that gives you such a reassuring impression within your heart. Well, that's a man, that's a young man who effuses confidence. Look at his eyes, so bright and ready to help. That kind of attitude I can always see in his, visage, like that.
From Bible, if you feel that in the particular vasanam perfectly matches.
Yes. I think if you go through my little presentations anywhere about the hospice work, I was always fascinated by the words of Jesus. When I was hungry, you gave me to eat. When I was thirsty, you gave me to drink. When I was a stranger, you welcomed me. And whenever you did to the least of my brothers and sisters, you did all that to me. So God, in Jesus, identified himself with the least of God's creation, least of the poor. And that is something I can see in Prabhakaran. Prabhakaran also fights for the least, not because he sees God in them, as I do, but because he sees there is beauty, there is professionalism there is cleverness there, and there is, if any credit is to be there, it is there. And that is the man's beauty.
ஸோ பிரபாகர் சார் ஒரு ஆஸ் அ அட்வொகேட்டாக இல்லாமல் வேறு ஒரு ப்ரொஃபஷன் போயிருந்ததுன்னா விச் வுட் ஹவ் சூஸன் லைக் ரொம்ப கரெக்டாக பர்ஃபெக்டாக இருந்திருக்கும்னு நினைக்கிறீங்க?
இந்த மாதிரி ஒரு ஹோம் நடத்துரு எனக்கு அதான் நான் நினைக்கிறேன். அவர் என்கிட்ட அதான் சொல்கிறாரு, ஃபாதர் நான் இதெல்லாம் விட்டுவிட்டு உங்களை மாதிரி ஐ வாண்ட் டு கம் அண்ட் திஸ் இஸ் அ பியூட்டிஃபுல் ஒர்க், ஐ லைக் டு டூ திஸ், யூ ஆர் மேக்கிங் டிஃப்ரென்ஸ் லாட்ஸ் ஆஃப் பீப்புள்ஸ் லைஃப்ஸ். அதான் அவர் என்கிட்ட சொல்கிறாரு. யூனோ, in other words, he would always, even if he were not to be a very famous lawyer as he is now, fighting for the poor people around, in whatever other profession he had chosen, he would always have this for the poorest of the poor, the weaker sections, the limping dogs of this world, he would have helped.
So in next 5 years, பிரபாகர் சாரை நீங்கள் என்னவா பார்க்கணுன்னு ஆசைப்படுறீங்க? In his profession?
In his profession, I would like to see him still there. I don't want him to be promoted as a judge or anything like that. I think as a judge, of course you can bring a lot of justice, to this world and all the rest of it. But I think as a professional lawyer, very knowledgeable, very hard-working professional lawyer, I think he would really go up the ladder by bringing about landmark cases and make a difference to our society in India, especially for the weaker sections of our society. That's what I really hope for, that he would do. I'm not expecting or hoping that he will become a big judge. Something unique I noticed in Prabhakaran, the inner Prabhakaran, is a reflection of my own self. I am a person who is charged, who is vibrant, who is, even at the age of age 67, I have lots of plans and dreams to start afresh, to do things new, even in spite of the failures and all that has happened during the last 2-3 months. I am really charging, rearing to go. I can see the same zest in him, a sense of mission in Prabhakaran. Looking at Prabhakaran like that on his face, or seeing him walking in front of me, I can see that's a man with a mission in life. And he is, rearing to go. What next? Which case shall I go for? Which is the poorest of the poor who needs my help? That sort of searching, and that sort of a person I see in him.